once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin. I'm joined here tonight by Pascal. Paz, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, good. And Juz, welcome back to the pod after a while. Waka.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you guys. It's been a while.
It has. So, how's it going? Gallivanting around Europe and
Pretty well. We're making the big move this weekend permanently. And so hopefully, everything goes smoothly. I'm really mostly just stressed about we're moving with 4 animals. So 2 dogs, 2 cats. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow.
But it's really stressing me out. Just that aspect of it is. So we'll see. And I don't know if you guys have probably flown into Schiphol before in Amsterdam, but it's like an intimidating airport. I think it's big and crazy and basically a mall. There's like 7 different baggage claims.
It's a really big transport hub. So a lot of people will fly in there to go other places. Like, it's a big one from here to England. It's actually one of the KLM do a lot of stops there.
Yeah, that's where we're flying through too. Yeah, KLM. So, but yeah, I couldn't be more excited. They got some snow tonight, which I haven't seen snow in several years. So I'm excited about that. And, we'll see how it goes.
Justin, out of interest, with the animals, they don't have quarantine there, right?
So basically we had to do a vet appointment within 7 days of leaving. We did that today. And basically the vet checks the dogs out, make sure they have all their registrations and stuff, and then certifies them to travel to, and every country's got different parameters,
Yeah.
But basically, they got all checked out today and approved. So,
Great, man, which is common sense because the UK has quarantine, Kath, right?
Well, yeah, the UK's, it's because the UK's rabies free. Continental Europe isn't. The UK's rabies free, and obviously you can't just wander across a border into the UK. You have to take a boat or a train or whatever. So that's why it's a big deal. Once every, 7 or 8 years, they'll find a bird dead on a beach somewhere that's washed up, that's got rabies, and there'll be a big, huge thing about it. But that's why we travelled back. I lived here. I lived in Florida in the 80s and then went back to England again. And we took one of our dogs back with us. And he had to spend 6 months in quarantine.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because it's a rabies-free country, so they basically won't take any risks. I don't know if that's still the case now. I mean, with the way borders have come down and how easy it is now to travel with animals, I don't know if that will still be the case, but I imagine it probably is.
Yeah, and you pay for that.
That's insane.
That quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. Yeah, I had no idea it was like a rabies-free country. I'd never heard that before, but it does. It makes sense,
Yeah, it's one of the few benefits to being an island that you can control. Yeah. It's why with the whole COVID thing, the South Pacific islands managed to, like New Zealand, managed to control it so well, because where the hell are you going to get in from?
Right. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
All right. So back to Arsenal world, lads.
One question though, Gav. Sorry.
Yes, go, mate.
I know I'm not trying to take the mantle of your take it from you at all, but Thanksgiving, I just got a question. So for us, obviously me and you, Gab, we've been here good on 10 plus years.
Yeah,
coming up to that.
Yep.
It's still a unique experience for me. Like I still have to kind of get my head around it, even though I've been here for a good amount of time. The whole because it seems for Americans, it seems like it's probably their biggest holiday.
Yeah, I think so.
It's
one of. I think it is. Yeah, I mean, for me, Christmas is always going to be one. I just love Christmas and everything about it. But Thanksgiving is close in on second. I have to say, I love it. I mean, it's a day of just eating, drinking, and watching NFL on TV all day. I can't think of a much better holiday.
But my only qualm with it is what I do not understand is why Friday isn't also a public holiday. That's what I find weird.
It's like our Boxing Day. It's like our Boxing Day.
Well, Boxing Day is a public holiday.
Is an official public holiday. Friday is unofficial.
Yeah.
So you feel like banks, are banks open? Banks are open.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's less. It seems to be less and less people work that Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. They will take the day off, I think. But yeah, I still find it fascinating and interesting as well to be spending it here, and obviously to explain to people in the UK. Sometimes I do get the history of it a little bit wrong, but it's quite a unique one to this country.
I think everybody gets the history of it wrong, including me and everybody else, because it's all these historical things are contrived, right? Our historical references are not real. We make them up. They get embellished over time and all that stuff. So I think, it's difficult. It's more, I think with all these things, I mean, and I'm probably going to get shot for saying this, but I'm an atheist. But I love Christmas, but it's got a different meaning. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, Christmas doesn't have anything to do with the religious side, because I'm not religious. But I love the family and people getting together. That's the parts of it I love. And I think with Thanksgiving, it's the same thing. The actual meaning behind the holiday has got less to do with how it actually started. The history of it it's not irrelevant, but it isn't necessarily the meaning behind it.
Well, it's better than Columbus Day,
Let's not open that can of worms.
All right, that's all I wanted to ask. You take it away, Gav.
All right, back to it. So, lads, we are top of the league.
Hell yeah, back on top.
Yeah, did anyone see this coming a few weeks ago? Being back on top this quickly, Juz?
No, actually, I'm pretty surprised, and I will say that as brilliantly as we've been defensively, and I do think we've been really good defensively, just totally smothering, winning the ball back, pressing high. I still don't think that our offense has really clicked, our attack, and that has me really optimistic, though, to be honest, because we're top of the league right now, and I would say our attack's been subpar up to this point. So if we can defend like we are now and get back to our attacking from parts of last season, I mean, we've got a real shot this year, I think.
Guys, when Eddie and Kai came on at the weekend, and I saw all the shit on Twitter was making me laugh. A Chelsea fan tweeted out, "Oh my God, they need a goal and they're bringing on Havertz." And that made me laugh at the end. That was obviously...
Didn't he win them a Champions League final?
Yeah, they've forgotten about that.
Oh, okay.
And it was just comedy gold. But did you notice something that this is one of the reasons, like the Trossard in the left 8 thing, we'll talk about a little bit. But for me, when Havertz came on, and I know he wasn't immediately impressive or anything like that, but just the simple fact that he takes less touches, and the simple fact that Eddie was playing further forward and forcing defenders to engage a little bit further up, it stretched the play a little bit. Do you think we looked a lot better, Paz, when they came on, which sounds ridiculous when you think of who went off?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was one of those about Eddie. Like, I find him very underwhelming as a sub. I think we've spoken about that. So obviously when you see him coming on, you do tend to refer back to historical experiences, and that is that he doesn't do much when he comes on. But to his credit, he was very mobile. He was having good touches on the ball. He was making runs, kind of akin to how you would see him when he starts. Havertz was interesting. Am I getting this wrong, or I think I'm getting this right? But he came on for Martinelli, right, and went onto the left. Am I right in saying that he switched to the left, or did
Trossard went out to the left?
Right, okay. Because I would have thought, actually, if he had gone on the left, that would have been interesting, because I believe that's where he played for Borussia Dortmund in his early days on the wing. So I thought,
Leverkusen,
Leverkusen, yeah.
Sorry, Leverkusen. Yeah, apologies. So it was great. He was quite. I didn't, like you said, quick touches. He seemed to be pretty, active and engaged in the game. But it turned out to be good substitutions, which again we credit Arteta for, which he has been pretty good at over the recent games.
Paz, that header at the back post, we've been waiting for 4 months to see that, right? In the pre-season, we were all thinking, oh, that's back post Kai, it's going to be a thing that's coming in. And, and it looked to me, when Eddie come on, like I said, their defence dropped a little bit. I mean, they were already deep, but I think it just created a little bit more space. They were also tiring. They'd been chasing the ball all game, so I think that had something to do with it. Saka maybe had a little bit more room than he'd had for most of the game to put that cross in. But Kai getting in that area to the back post there, we've just been waiting to see that for so long.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, it was a fabulous cross by Saka. Really pinpoint accuracy. And we were looking at that avenue throughout the game to make crosses into the box. In fact, the goal that we scored was from a cross.
A Saka cross too.
The Saka cross too, which Jesus really should have scored, to be honest. But I thought that was our best avenue to get a goal in that game. Brentford made it very difficult to play through the middle. They even made it difficult as well to, try and play our free-flowing football, which we've been criticised for in that game, which I find remarkable because it's a tough team with a low block. They really strengthen that defence. They've got good defenders. They're very well drilled and organised. So that was looked like our most dangerous threat, was to get a cross in the box. And I'm just glad he was on hand to put that in. And it's actually a goal now through open play, not a given penalty or something like that. So we've been hoping for this, and we're hoping now that will hopefully give him some encouragement for the next games after.
And while we bring up that, Juz, the disallowed goal, I thought it was offside at the time. I didn't even celebrate it really because I knew it was going to be ruled out. Did you see that as offside? I mean, I know there's been a little bit of debate because you can't see where the ball is, and we didn't get the one at St James's Park, but we've got to get beyond that now, because if we're going to compare everything to that, we're going to drive ourselves nuts. But it felt to me like it was offside.
My initial reaction to it was that it was offside, but then you remember how horrible the officiating is in this country, and I had hope that maybe it was given. But yeah, I'm fine with it. My position is that I think it should be, if it's so tight, it should be advantage attacker, just because I think it makes the game better. But I have no problem with, I mean, it is what it is. And it would have been nice, but it would have been controversial if it stood.
Paz, is the worst thing about these type of decisions not necessarily the decision themselves, but the fact that we get 6 angles, none of them are straight, and we don't know which one they're going to draw the line from. And it does seem from 1 minute to the next, from one picture to the next, he's off, he's on, he's off, he's on, he's off, he's on.
Yeah, which is maybe the disadvantage of watching it rather than being at the game, because the initial freeze framing of it looked like he was on. And you get all excited then. You think, oh, yeah, that's onside. Good. And then you get this deflating second angle, which then makes it debatable. And then come the lines. And then, they use the actual least favourable angle as the one to draw the lines on. I
didn't know which line was going to be which either.
I know.
So even when the lines went up on the screen, I didn't know if it was onside or offside because I couldn't tell which line was supposed to be the defender and which. That's how close together they were. I couldn't see what line was going off of what body part.
Yeah, it was excruciating. It's excruciating to watch, to be honest. I mean, of course, the argument that someone in the crowd would say is that we don't know what we're looking at. We don't know what's going on until it's revealed. But sometimes I'd rather that, because then you're kind of worked into a frenzy as to whether that's on, whether that's off. Oh, no, look at this angle. Then they take a long time. And then you've got the dreaded lines. And yeah,
I think it was 3.5 minutes. I think it was 3.5 minutes they took for that. And I don't care who you are. That's too long.
It's too long.
It's way too long. It's way too long. And it's a really tedious conversation, because I know we've always talked about it. I don't know what plans they have for next season, but this is surely one of them where it's just getting pretty ridiculous. I think I believe it's Wenger has come up with. Was it Wenger's idea of the striker being?
I can't work out if this is batshit mental or if it's a good idea. I can't figure it out.
I'm actually more with the latter. I think that does make. I think it makes it a lot more easier then to make the decision, doesn't it? Rather than sitting there for 5 minutes.
I tell you what will be amusing. What you're going to start to see if this happens is a whole generation of centre forwards that I know you guys don't watch NFL that much, but you have to get 2 feet in bounds when you catch the ball, right? So a lot of the time when they catching the ball along the sideline, they just drag their toe to stay in bounds when they catch it. And you're going to start to see a lot of strikers. You know the way Kane dangles his leg in to try and get a penalty, to try and clip the goalkeeper before he goes down. You're going to see all these strikers running through and hanging the back leg, trying to keep the back toe onside.
Well, I don't have a problem with that because I think that one, there's an art to that. 2, it's not derisory, is it? It's not like someone standing 10 yards offside, just goal hanging. It's just someone using their ways to manipulate or take advantage of a rule. And
this is one thing that with offsides, right? We all know offside is binary. You're offside or you're not, and that's fine. But the spirit of the law of offside, right, is to stop someone goal hanging in the 6-yard box. It is not because they want to disallow a goal because someone's shoulder is slightly in front of someone else's shoulder. That was never what the law was intended for. That's not what it was brought in for. Really, the problem has arisen with this forensic examination of every decision, because if someone's slightly off and they score, that is not what the law was intended for when it first came in.
No, it was. I think it was. I think I said this to you before. I think back one of the biggest pushes towards VAR, if memory serves me correct, was the Lampard decision, wasn't it? The one where in the World
Cup, the goal line technology.
Yeah.
That was goal line technology. I don't think anyone can argue. Yes, I know you have said it has had some issues, but it is relatively. I don't think it's anything close to the controversy.
No, it's not that flawed. No. I mean, it was just one time when it didn't work that everyone points to because it was such a big deal. It kept Aston Villa up and sent Birmingham down, which is
absolutely,
and they're massive rivals. So
no, absolutely. But generally, that, as I would say, has been a success in its implementation. But offsides, I don't know. If I look back in the past, has there been things that stick out in my memory that were so offside that it was a horrendous decision? I can't think off the top of my head, but I can think of ones like the Lampard one, which sticks out in my memory, which was over the line. I also think as well that I remember back in the day, what they used to always say is, that could be offside, that could be onside, but you know what? Let's give the attacker the advantage in this case, right. And just and that was it. End of debate. So I don't know if this has really helped solve an issue, or was there a big issue?
I think it's created an issue, and I think the forensic examination of this, like I said, there's rules, there's the way they're written, and then there's the spirit of the rules, and we do understand that there is a difference in all three. What VAR does, and what I always said it was going to do, is it takes away the element of spirit of the rule because it takes away any common sense because you have to answer yes or no.
It's too analytical.
And again, I just it's not what offside is meant for. Offside isn't meant to catch someone offside by one of their hairs. That's not what it's there for. It's there to stop goal hanging and but it is what it is. And like I said, I don't have any problem with that being disallowed. My initial reaction was that's offside. So I really don't have any problem with it.
My initial reaction is, even before Trossard scored, is Jesus should have scored that. That was my initial reaction. Yes. It was an open header. He's got the whole of the goal. And unlike what Havertz did, he puts it at goalkeeper's height, which was perfect. Havertz hit the ball down It's always the rule. If he'd put that header down at either corner, that would have been a goal. I think that was really what I was more frustrated about than the actual.
Yeah, he gave the keeper, and it was a game that, although we dominated, there wasn't that many chances. No. We had a few pings from the edge of the box. I actually texted you and said we need to start hitting more from distance here because we just weren't getting any. We weren't getting in the box. That Ethan Pinnock, as a deep defender, what a player he is as a deep defender. I think he's a great player as that last low block. I really he's stuck out to me all season.
Is he English or where is he from?
I have no idea. I think he is, but I honestly don't know. But I
have the roster up here. Hold on.
Yeah, as like that low block defender, I think he's. I mean, he wouldn't be any good for a team like us, obviously.
Jamaican.
He's Jamaican. Yeah, I thought he might have been.
And he's already 32.
Yeah, I know he's older. But yeah, I think he's been one of the standout players of the season. I mean, Paz, we had this debate before. I have massive respect for Thomas Frank. I hate Brentford as a football team, and I hate watching them play. It's not that I dislike the club or anything like that. I just can't bear to watch them play. I think they are awful. And that, the reason we played Trossard in midfield, Moaning Imran said to me before the game, "Oh, this is a mistake. We've got Trossard in there." I'm like, mate, they don't have anyone in midfield. They literally do not use the midfield. Pack it with as many little ball players as you want. There's nothing going on in there.
No, I understand that. I do understand watching them is not the most entertaining, and I agree with you on that. I just perhaps am a little bit lighter on them. One, because I lived in and around that area before I came to the US. Obviously, I grew up in North London, but I lived in close to Brentford before I came. So I always liked them as a small club. They've come up through the team, so I admired that part of them. I feel also they've done really well in terms of how they've worked the transfer market. I thought they've done well to stay where they are. I feel they're not a naive team. I think they're very well drilled. I know they're not great to watch, but I mean, look at Newcastle. Look how much money they've got.
They remind me so much of late 80s and early 90s Wimbledon.
You've said that really before. Do. I mean, I can see. I know you would say that Tony's they're
not as lunatic-y. Do you know what I mean? Like they haven't got a Vinnie Jones, but they do remind me a lot of that.
I wouldn't say their football is that bad. I'd say it's a little bit more enterprising than that Wimbledon team. But I mean, look at Newcastle. Look how much money they've got, and look at the football that they bring to the table. Yeah. I'm more inclined to attack them for their footballing naivety and negative their cynicism when it comes to football than Brentford, because I just feel they're a smaller club. And I think they've done extremely well to get to where
they're punching above their weight. And I've got a lot of respect for Thomas Frank. He seems like a decent bloke as well as
I like Frank.
Yeah, he was. I think he even said about Saka's cross. He was very complimentary. He seems really humble as well. He's not.
He always is. He's very self-aware. I think. Yeah. He's an excellent ambassador for that club. I really do think he represents them really, really well. You look at some managers, and you're like, man, I hate Phil Brown at Hull is the perfect.
Eddie Howe.
Do you remember Phil Brown? Yeah, Eddie Howe is another one. But Phil Brown at Hull was like that. It made you hate Hull City when really you should have been thinking, oh, well, that's a bit of a fairy tale. And it didn't. You hated him because Phil Brown was such an awful person, and he was so bad. Yeah, Pulis is another one.
Pulis,
and that's it. You get a lot of these people like that, and Frank isn't like that. He's very magnanimous, and I think he just seems like a good guy. To go back to something you said there earlier on, Paz, when we were talking about Eddie coming on, and Jazz, I want to get your thing on this. There's been a lot of people saying he should have squared it, the one when he went through and tried to pass it in the bottom corner. I would be going nuts if Eddie tried to square that ball and it got blocked and he didn't take the shot. I have no problem with him taking a shot. Now, if that's Jesus, I've got no problem with him passing it. But Eddie, being the player he is with his skill set, all I want Eddie doing in that situation is shooting. I do not want him passing. How did you see that?
So my initial reaction was that he should have squared it. But then, when I got more context on the situation after I rewatched it a couple times, and, I always catch, the extended highlights before we do a pod. And I'm okay with him taking that shot as well. I think it is, player specific, I think, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
absolutely. If you look at what the higher percentages, right? This isn't Dennis Bergkamp going through over there. It's not Cesc Fabregas, right? What do you think has got more chance of working in that situation? Eddie is coming into the box from the left-hand side with a goal opening up to his right. He's got two players over to his right, but he's also got two defenders in between. Now, you can get that ball through there, right?
Yeah.
Fabregas absolutely gets that ball through there. Dennis Bergkamp gets that ball through there. What do you think's got more chance? Eddie getting that ball through to where it needs to go, or Eddie scoring with a shot? Because I think the shot is the much higher chance of working.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think the angle was great, but I agree with you. I mean, just take the shot. That's what Eddie's good at. He was in the box.
It just wasn't a great shot. That was the problem.
It wasn't a great shot. Yeah, it wasn't a great shot. But I mean, a deflection could have went anywhere. We could have got, I was fine
a
with
rebound because that goalkeeper was pushing stuff out all day long.
Yep. Yeah. Flecken looked a little shaky to me a few times. I know he had that like one juke to beat was it Jesus? I can't remember, but yeah, he looked a little shaky to me with his handling. I was
Eddie.
fine with it once I had the context. Eddie.
I know what you mean, Eddie, yeah.
Yeah, because even on the disallowed goal, he didn't cover himself in glory with that save. So
no, yeah.
So I had no problem with taking them shots. Paz, we had two off the line clearances that were absolutely magnificent.
Brilliant.
They really were. The first one, and we'll go into Ramsdale in a bit, but the first one was Ramsdale's error. If we don't spend £105 million on Declan Rice in the summer, do we lose that game 1-0?
Yeah, because I if you watch it, and this is where Declan Rice is that wealth of intelligence off the ball as well as on it. You see, as soon as the error is made, Declan Rice runs to the position where he made that, where he cleared it off the line. He knew exactly where to go. He'd already anticipated that there's probably going to be a cutback and then a shot in. That doesn't come naturally to many footballers, especially ones that play in his position. In his position is more important than any to be so switched on defensively. So
look at it this way, right? I don't think it even crosses Partey's mind to go to that post. And that's not a criticism of Partey. That's just not the sort of player he is, right? That is not the sort of defensive midfielder he is. I don't mean cross line. Jorginho or El Neni are never getting there. Right? They're just not quick enough to get there. They would never get there. The way Rice eats up ground is absolutely insane. So I think that was phenomenal. And then Zinchenko's one that was kind of his own making. He did the most outrageous bit of skill that I've ever seen on a football pitch. Then he got a ball back that he didn't really need to get back and took a loose touch and give it away. But then to get back and clear it off the line, I thought that was another incredible bit of play.
Yeah, it was his own making. And sometimes Zinchenko does have these moments where he can make that dodgy pass or put us into a bit of problem.
I think sometimes he gets a bit comfortable as much.
He gets a little bit ahead of himself.
I think the game comes very easily for him. It does. Super easy. And I think because of that, I mean, you saw what he did 2 minutes before. I still can't explain what he actually did, but to bring that ball down the way he did and then play it on the volley, perfect pass like that to Gabriel. I still don't know how he did it, but he can do stuff like that. And I just think sometimes the simple stuff for him is too easy.
He kind of reminds me of a player. Sorry, yes.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me, I'm sure Justin will probably back this up. Kind of reminds me of a Dutch player from the 1974 Dutch team, where he's just unbelievably gifted, like nearly every single player in that Dutch team. But there is that moment where they can make a mistake that can cost you a goal because they're so gifted individually and so gifted skill-wise. Sometimes they get a little bit ahead of themselves, but what he showed there was that he's not just gifted in terms of his skills. And when he does make a mistake, he knows exactly what to do defensively. And I think that was a really, really positive attribute he brought in that particular moment because that was going in.
Yeah, and I thought he was absolutely phenomenal at the week. I actually thought the whole of the back line and Declan Rice were our best players. I thought they were all absolutely phenomenal. Fabulous. If it wasn't Jazz, if it wasn't for the defensive mistakes, I don't know we'd ever concede a goal. Like literally every goal is from an individual error because we're as a unit, we are as solid as I've ever seen us.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, and I think the talent in the back line is just it's so complementary as well. I mean, Saliba might be the best center back in the league.
Yeah, and I don't think he had his best game at the weekend.
Actually. No,
defensively, I thought he was good, but but like on the ball, I thought he was a bit loose. But Tomiyasu, Gabriel, they bailed him out every time because that's what a defensive unit do. There were days, Pass will know this. There were days in our back four when we had the famous back four where even Tony Adams had bad days, and there were days when Steve Bold or Lee Dixon would be bailing Tony Adams out. So it's everyone. No one's impervious to a mistake. It's going to happen. And I thought Saliba gave the ball away a couple of times. And I just think he was bailed out by the rest of them. And I just think that unit is so strong.
It's really good. Yeah.
We're very difficult to play through. Very difficult. We're a really difficult team to play through. Man City will speak to that. Besides one big mistake, I think, from when they had that corner and then Aki missed it. I don't remember them really penetrating our defense. We generally are so put together defensively. And Spurs, we all know Rice came off, but when Rice is there as that 6, it's a back 5 basically. It's so robust and really difficult to play through. And this is one stark difference from last season to this.
Yeah, I think we're a lot slower. And
we are.
Rice being in there makes a huge difference. That left 8, just do we need that to become a lower touch position? I mean, I know at the start of the season when this change was going on, sometimes it takes a minute to get used to it, right? It's not a change that aesthetically is particularly pleasing. The way we've gone from how we were last season to how we were this season, but can you see now a path to someone? Let's be fair. Can you see a path to Kai making that spot his own? Because I think over the last couple of weeks, what's become more apparent to me is that we need less touches of the ball. And I think in midfield in particular, we take too many touches on the ball. And I think with Trossard in there, it was particularly noticeable. It's 5 touches before he lays it off. Martinelli's the same. Saka's the same. Until they're doing that little one-touch combo around the box, in general, there are too many touches being taken in midfield. And I think when you get someone like Kai, who really doesn't want that much of the ball, when he's doing what he did at the weekend and going and crashing the back post, is that the answer?
I'm thinking this left 8 is a kind of an evolving role.
I was going to say that. Do we know what it is yet?
Yeah, no, I honestly don't think so. And I think as Rice, as he gets more comfortable and, learns his teammates, and I truly believe we could play 2 10-like players out there. You know what I mean? Havertz and Odegaard. We don't need that link in the middle that Xhaka was. But I do think it's maybe a bit too early to play one of, like a Manchester City, a Liverpool in that fashion. But I do think that is going to be the evolution of this team. And it is really interesting that we have maybe 3 big options there, and your Kai Havertz, your Fabio Vieira, and your Emile Smith-Rowe, and they all have different strengths and weaknesses. But I think, and you love to harp on this, Gav, but the size of Havertz gives us that unique weapon of a lofted ball to the far post for someone of his size to get on the back of, and it does make a lot of sense, and it helps with low block as well, I think.
Does the centre forward position have to evolve? Because this is what I've been thinking about over the last couple of days, really, is with the way we are trying to play now, do we need less of a Gabriel Jesus, less of a false 9, and more of someone who's more like Haaland, someone like Victor Osimhen, yes, who is going to play on the last shoulder of the defender, who's a powerhouse getting in the box? Is that what we need to stretch that and create a little bit more space?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think a player, if we brought in a player like Osimhen right now, I think it would be the most transformative thing we could do to our team. And I do think it would slightly change the way we play, but I think there's no other change we could make that would be more influential than that right now.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that's kind of what I've been thinking over the last, and I love Jesus. I did say that I think we'd be looking to upgrade him every year, and I think we are going to be. But I just think someone like a Seaman to push defenders back, I think would just changes the shape of everything. Paz, we've been linked with him pretty heavily. I personally don't see how we're going to be spending any money in January because obviously we structured the Raya deal the way we did because we're up against it with FFP. Do you think there's any chance? I mean, I don't see how we can basically get the money together to get this done.
I mean, I can't speak for how it works with FAP in terms of our situation. So I don't know. I think if there is, I mean, there's been talk that there would be some money available for Arteta, but now we've seen that what happened with Everton. I know that that's going to take precedence over everything in terms of how we.
And you'd be looking at breaking our transfer record again, right? I mean, you'd be looking at 150 million plus.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would love, and I know you'd be spending an absolute fortune, but I'd love an Evan Ferguson. I just think he's fantastic at Brighton. I think that would be a great striker to have in your team. But I can't see it being a striker, but I can see a potential for maybe an 8.
All right. Well, listen, let's pick this up on the other side of break because I don't want to end this yet, but we've got to go to break. So let's pick this up on the other side, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. We'll see you back in a second. Hey, guys. Just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz, and Juz. We really appreciate it. Welcome back to the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Paz, before the break, I want you to pick up where you left off. You were saying that you didn't think we were going to be looking at a striker in January, but you did think there was a chance of a left 8.
It's just a hunch. It obviously would seem a bit weird because we did get Havertz, but it does seem to be a problem for us.
I was going to say though, how does Arteta, after convincing the board to spend 65 million quid on Havertz, how does he go back to the board and say, I want another one?
Yeah. I mean, maybe he can, you know, I think he can build a case in terms of maybe saying, look, he's still adapting to the role. He is being utilized. He can be utilized up front as well. He's part of the squad. There was news of them giving around 50 million for something. I know that's not breaking the heavens, but I think I don't know if he's located a player perhaps that could maybe fill in that role or finds one that could do that. I wouldn't be surprised, let me put it that way, but I couldn't really make any predictions on who it could be or what their financial situations is with FFP or any of that. But I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if that was an area that he did assess, or perhaps on the wing, on the right-hand side. But that's just a feeling more than anything.
I don't think it's going to be in January, Pause, but I do tend to agree with you that you know, when you look around at the team, the squad, it seems like almost every player picks themselves, right? In the left 8 is kind of the biggest question mark. So I see that with that regard, but I also got to kind of lean with Gav here is that not only did he convince the board to drop 65 million on Havertz, but there was also the refusal to sell Smith Rowe. Vieira was just the previous year. I'm not saying any one of those 3 are the solutions, but I think he's got kind of a long road to convince dropping a big amount of money in that position again. I think it's going to be striker will be our next big purchase, but I don't think it'll be January. It'll be summer.
Yeah,
this is something I want to touch on real quick here, lads. Edu gets an awful lot of stick for not being able to sell players, and rightly so. We keep paying players off. We don't get the money for the players that we should be getting. Joe Willock aside, we're not bringing in these deals. But how much of a case has Mikel Arteta got to answer here? Because he destroys players' values more than I think any manager I've ever seen. And I like Arteta, and I think what Arteta's done for us has been absolutely magnificent. The way he's brought the team back to the crowd, the way, obviously, the on-pitch improvements, I think it's great. But what you cannot look past is he absolutely tanked the value of Matteo Guendouzi. He tanked the value of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I don't think Ozil had any value. I think that was done. I'm not sure we could really done anything about that. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, tanked the value of Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Rob Holding, Callum Chambers, tanked the values of them. He's now done it again with Emil Smith-Rowe, with Thomas Partey. And you can argue with them too that injuries have got something to do with it, but we knew about the injuries before the summer. Aaron Ramsdale, any talk of 60 million for Aaron Ramsdale, I'm telling you now, he's pie in the sky. We are not getting our money back on Aaron Ramsdale. We paid, 24 million for him?
28, wasn't it?
Was it 28? I'd be shocked if we got half of that. Shocked. He destroys the value of players. How much of this discussion just needs to be had? Because Edu gets all the stick, and I think Edu has got an impossible job.
Man, I think this is kind of a tough one, Gav. And let me know what you think, because I don't have any, insider knowledge or anything with regards to this, but I feel like while I agree, and I agree 100%. I think as a manager, his job first and his most important job is to get results. So I'm not so I don't think Arteta concerns himself with the values of players.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree. But the fact is, he's not the head coach of Arsenal Football Club. He's the manager.
He's the manager.
Right?
Yeah.
And there is a difference there. There is a distinction between those two roles. And he is the manager. So should it be part of his makeup to worry about that sort of stuff? Because...
Go ahead.
No, go for it. I was passing it on.
No, I mean, that is actually a really good point. And now that it's kind of it's kind of a duopoly, right? With Edu and Arteta, you would think that there would be some conversations about that. You could even go a little bit further and say there has been opportunity to play some kids that probably wouldn't have made it at Arsenal, but maybe with 3-4 appearances under the belt, they could have gotten a decent transfer fee. So yeah, I do think this is a bit of a blind spot. I think we've all talked about it on the pod, squad management, which I know is like a very umbrella term, but I do think it's kind of a weak point for Arteta. He really just tends to focus on like what you can do for me now and deliver, and if you can't, he's on to something else. It's like there's no like forecast to plan in any of the business side of the game. And as much as I hate saying it like that, for a club like Arsenal that doesn't have, some big sugar country backing them, I think that kind of stuff does need to be taken into consideration, even if it's just, a little bit.
Paz, where are you on this?
I'd say my counter argument to that, I mean, what I do 100% agree with you, which are the facts. The facts are the ones that we've sold for peanuts. Pepe, you can include Pepe in that as well, where he had a great season. Well, sorry, I rephrased. I didn't have a great season, but Arteta's first season, he had
a reasonable season and then got replaced with Willian.
Instrumental in the FA Cup, and then
he got replaced with Willian. And that's
gets replaced with Willian and totally ostracized from the team.
And this is kind of where I'm at with Ramsdale as well, is that if we'd have gone and bought Alisson, I'd have had no problem with this. But we haven't. We've gone and bought David Raya.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
Is he better than Ramsdale? Again, I don't know if he is or not, but he's certainly not better enough.
No, I think with Ramsdale, I feel that you can have an argument as to whether he has tanked it or whether he hasn't, because it's not happened yet. And I think there are still morons out there like Chelsea who have Sanchez in goal and Ramsdale is an upgrade from Sanchez for sure. English keeper, I still feel that there is a value for him, but he's not doing him any favors. Let me put it that way. He's not, the way it's being managed at the moment is not helping the situation. And then obviously, as you can see with Ramsdale coming in that Brentford game, he's nervous. He's under a lot of pressure. Not it's all Arteta's fault. I think media's played a massive part in this and making this a fucking debate every single week.
But wait a minute. But Arteta's lies also played a part in this, Paz. And we've got this is to play devil's advocate here. Again, I'm not having to go at Arteta.
Yeah.
But you have to understand the role that his lies came into this, right? When he brought David Raya, he's not coming in to be number one. He's coming in to compete. That is not true. It was never true. Right?
I know,
but there is no competition for the number one spot at Arsenal, and there never was. He's never going to sub a goalkeeper in the 60th minute because he feels like making a change. It's never going to happen. It is a lie. So by lying to the media like that, he's told the media that this is a competition, and it's not a competition. So they're going to ask those questions, and then he comes out after the game, right? And he basically threw Ramsdale under the bus, and he made the faces he was making on the sidelines were intentional. That was intentional, what he was doing to the camera on the sidelines, right? Contrast that to what he did with David Raya after, was it the Spurs game or the Man City game? Because he was poor in both. Was it the first half against Man City where he was really...
Man City,
yes, because he knew it all. Look at Arteta coming out afterwards, and what was Arteta's response? It was to have a dig at Ramsdale. That was Arteta's response coming after that game. Protect Raya, have a dig at Ramsdale. He chose not to do that with Ramsdale on Saturday. He made it pointed that he was not going to protect him. So I think Arteta's brought a lot of this on himself.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't see his interview. I heard his post. I saw his post-match comments. What is it that was disrespectful to Ramsdale? I wasn't.
So he basically refused to acknowledge he existed. Do you remember after the Man City game, all he did was come out afterwards and say, David Raya's brilliant. David Raya does what I tell him to do. The fans should have a go at me. What he did this time, when the guy brought it up personally, he said, well, the team did well. That was it.
Well, in a way, though, I'm playing devil's advocate here, though. The Raya one, I can understand why he would jump to his defence. Because firstly, he's brought him in. There was a lot of scrutiny. The fans were on his back in the first half. So, yeah, I think he would jump to his defence. The Ramsdale one, I can also see that he doesn't want to make this a topic of conversation. Yes, you can say that he's made it a topic of conversation.
He has, and he could have sold Ramsdale in the summer when he knew. I
know, but if he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. Because if he goes and says Ramsdale had a really great second half, he really came out, he showed his character, and then drops him for the next game, people are going to say, "What a hypocrite! What an arsehole! He says he was really good, and now
he does that anyway." Paz, how is that any different from saying that this is a competition?
Should we read his comments? Should we give a shit? Does anyone really, honestly, besides a VAR incident or something that goes wrong in a game by a referee, does anyone give a fuck about what the manager says? It's like the players. I don't really care. I don't read much into it. All I care about is what the selection is. The selection clearly says, as you said, that what he has said previously, yes, is contradictory. Absolutely. But every week, this has been a topic of conversation by the media. And it's not just because of what Arteta says. It's because they love to talk about our goalkeeper and what a big controversy it is. He's an English goalkeeper. They seem to jump on the back about this all the time and about how he's feeling. His dad's coming out, just like Maguire. Same fucking hurrah, about this in England international. How can you treat him like this?
It turns out that Maguire's the best Man United defender by a mile. So it turns out that everyone else was wrong.
maybe so. But were they saying this about Leno? I didn't hear this about Leno. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, but nothing. Leno got dropped. And I agree, this is my point. Leno got dropped and no one ever said this is a competition.
But Gav, some of the stuff I've heard about what a disrespect to him and his family. He's a manager. Yeah. He picks a team. It's like,
I agree with that. And like I said, if he'd have brought in Alisson, I've got no problem
I get that
with bringing in a better goalkeeper and replacing him.
He wanted Raya first.
With it,
he wanted Raya first.
My problem is, and he did, and he loves David Raya. And Canna loves David Raya. That is fine. But he should have sold Ramsdale the minute that he knew Raya was available. Ramsdale should have been out the door. He should have been out. This is an untenable situation. We all knew it was going to be an untenable situation. We knew it. He has brought this on himself completely. And then to top it off, what he should have done, the first game Raya was available, Raya should have played, and he should have said, Raya is my number one. That's what he should have done. If he'd have done that, Paz, there would be none of this.
But he could have tanked his value then as well, though.
Quiet. It doesn't matter. He's tanking it either way. What he's done now is invited all this media scrutiny every week by lying and saying it's a competition, because now everyone wants to know what this competition's about.
But does everyone really want to know?
They keep asking the question.
I don't really care.
I mean, listen, you and Justin, I naively bought into this crap, which I should never have done. But you and Justin read between the lines already and said, hey, Raya's going to be number one by October. You both, Justin said it. So I think besides myself, who I've come to the realization, whatever Arteta says, I really don't want to pay too much attention to it. I've come to realization it's the selection that really matters. Like it was like when he said about Pepe being this new player and all of this, and then he's not even in the fucking squad. You know, it's a tendency of his to do. I don't think personally, though, he's tanked his value. That's what I don't think. I think there's still very much a buyer out there. There's a Bayern Munich out there.
He can't have tanked his value, though, just because it's quite clear now that Ramsdale has to leave, right? He has to leave. So I don't see how he hasn't tanked his value. Ramsdale would have been worth far more on August 31st than he's worth today, because he was a useful player that was potentially a first-team player. Now what he is a spare part, right? Why would anyone pay that money for him? You just wait till he gets so angry, Edu pays him off.
So I don't want to dodge this question. I think without a doubt, his value is lower than it would have been. I agree with that 100%. But I'd like to kind of pivot this to a bigger concern that I have with this whole situation, in that it looks like the squad themselves backs Ramsdale more than Raya. Yeah. And I think that's a bigger issue for us.
I think they probably like him more, but he's been with them longer. I'm not sure that's true, though. That is one bit that I'm not worried about. Footballers will play with footballers, so I'm not worried. I mean, look at Sheringham and Andy Cole. They famously didn't speak to each other for years.
It doesn't have to be about just between those two, though. I mean, if you've got the back line and most of the team thinking that Ramsdale's the better keeper, that they play better with Ramsdale, but do you think that, though? I'm not sure that I'm not sure. I think they probably like him more. But like I said, he's been there the whole time. But I don't know. I haven't read that. To keep an eye on. None of us are in there, you know.
I haven't read that into it. There's a lot of things that I find wrong with this situation. And again, it's not that he's been replaced. I said last year after the Southampton game, I said that Ramsdale, we probably needed to look at upgrading Ramsdale. I just think it should have been done, and Ramsdale should have been sold. And this idea of keeping two players like this, I think it was idiotic from the beginning. I think it was naive. I think it was stupid. And then to lie about it, I think has made it even worse.
To be fair,
sorry, Just you
no,
go.
I was just one sentence. I think that I think Raya's performances have been a bit down for us. I expected him to be better than this watching him play, and I think he's been a bit of a disappointment, but just because I did hold him in higher regard than I do now. That's all I wanted to say. I think if he'd have come in and played lights out, this wouldn't even be a conversation, you know.
I think one thing I would say though, Gav, is I would disagree with him tanking ESR and parties. I know you mentioned parties injury because
it's not tanking it by not playing them the way he has with the others, but tanking it by not selling them. And maybe the offers weren't there, but tanking them by not getting rid of them in the summer.
Right, okay,
I think that was our last chance to basically get any money at all. But then I've also heard that there were no offers. I've heard that Arsenal were happy to let Partey go. And the fact is that there just weren't any offers.
Yeah, I would believe that more. ESR, I can kind of understand that. But I think ESR, the problem is that he was starting to get back in the team. And then he got injured again. So the problem is with ESR is I feel he can't have for himself, can't have a run of games more than 2 or 3 games without getting injured. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. And maybe Arteta, which people have not really mentioned, maybe Arteta wasn't playing him for that very reason, that he cannot last longer than a certain amount of games, and thought, okay, now he seems ready, did it, look what happened. So I feel ESR, I think he still thought he had a place for him in the squad. But maybe now, when we come to summer, that's going to be a different matter. But I can see the arguments with Ramsdale, but I think we definitely get more than what we paid for him if we sell him. I feel that Chelsea or a Bayern Munich are in need of a decent goalkeeper. They lost out to Raya, I think, and they've been heavily linked with Ramsdale. And I think Chelsea are absolute guaranteed to go in for him as well.
Well,
I hate to see Ramsdale at Chelsea.
I mean, we can't really sell him in January because, I mean, first off, he's got to play against Brentford at home, right? So we've got someone else has to play. The only alternative to that is if you sell Ramsdale and you make the Raya deal permanent early, I guess is the only way, because they're going to make it permanent, obviously. You do it in January and not in July, and then he'd be free to play against Brentford. Other than that, I don't see what else you can really do, because I mean, but he would have to be replaced, right? If we sold him in January, we would have to get someone in, even if it was getting Ben Foster in for 6 months to sit on the bench.
I do feel for him. I'll be honest. I see the arguments on it, and I do feel for him as a person because I like him. We all like him. And you can see visibly he did look a shell of that confident goalkeeper that we know he is, especially after the mistakes. You can see how much it was affecting him after that time. But then you also saw what quality keeper he is, because in the second half, he didn't let that overtake his confidence. He carried on. He actually had a very much better second half. He was confident on the ball. His handling was a lot better, and some of his long ball distributions were really good. But there is a part of me that feels for him, but there is also a part of me that understands that football is like that. And I think what Arteta is trying to do from what I'm seeing is, yes, there is a ruthless side to him, no doubt. But there is also a side for me that is trying to make this team the best he feels it can be. And I think at this point, barring maybe free-flowing football, we can't really argue too much.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Arteta's been brilliant since he come in. Like I said, I really do. My whole thing is just that, I don't know. I just think there's a couple of flaws here, and we have to remember too, he's still a first-time manager. Every way you want to look at it, this is still his first job. He's still learning. But I do feel that Edu gets a lot of stick for not being able to sell anybody, and that's fair because that is part of his job. But I do think Arteta makes Edu's job harder than he needs to. That was my point.
100%. Yeah,
it's a
100%.
fair argument. I'd agree with that.
So, all right. Well, let's move on to midweek, lads. Wednesday, Lons at home. I believe a win puts us top of the group, right? I think we've qualified top with a win, which makes the game in Eindhoven a dead rubber. I think that's really important to do that, right? I think it's the first team go out there, do the business, and we move on, right, Juz?
Yeah, mate. I think that's it's absolutely crucial, and I think we'll do it home against Lens. I know they were, they got us away. I
think it might actually be a big win, Juz. I think we might actually get 4 or 5 on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean that would be really nice. I mean, we're starting to have some of the injuries come back. I could see it. I think we've been great defensively all season. If the offense could click just a little bit more, I mean, I'd be pretty confident to steamroll almost any team.
Paz, if we can do this and wrap up top spot on Wednesday, the way to go is just not to even take anybody to Eindhoven, right?
Yeah, I would. What kind of pleases me with all of this. So another thing as well is I think if we draw against Lens and PSV lose, we take top as well.
And they're away PSV, right? So
there's a strong possibility they lose because they are terrible away from home. Yeah. We draw. Not that we're going to go in for a draw, but if that happens, we also take top spot.
Actually, we don't. We only need them to draw. Oh no, because no, actually,
they both have 5.
If we draw, they can. If we draw and they draw, then we're for a top.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there you go. So we just got to hope they avoid winning, basically. I think. Listen, we're quite fortunate in some sense. We're quite fortunate with the group, so I'm really pleased with the group itself. We're also fortunate with the games that we have after these games. So Wolves at home on a Saturday is pretty kind. I think we had one where we had Sheffield United. So we've been pretty fortunate that we're not playing like a Liverpool away or Aston Villa away after these games, which helps a lot. And also the games before that perhaps are not the most, Brentford away is not easy. But
funnily enough, we've got Villa away before PSV. So it would definitely be nice to have that wrapped up so we're not thinking about
there you go. So if we can finish top, I think it really puts us in, with no international breaks now, so we puts us in a really good position to first give the relevant rest needed and preparation needed for these big Premier League games coming up. And put out, I really hope he does. I know all of us, there's no reason to not put out a full youth team against PSV. No reason whatsoever. Why not let us see Will Walters? Let us see some of the talent in Yeri.
The fringe players too ain't getting a game in the league. Your Fabio Vieiras, Mohamed El Neni, Reece Nelson. Let's see these guys for this game.
Absolutely.
There's no reason not to. Maybe Emil Smith-Rowe will be back. Do we know anything about Emil Smith-Rowe?
There was an update today that I read, and it's still just kind of inconclusive. Him and Thomas Partey are. Yeah, we don't even know. I mean, it's a knee injury, but we don't even know.
We've not heard much about it, and give Eddie a run out from the start. And like you said, Patrick, Ramsdale. I really hope Ramsdale gets a Champions League game before he goes.
Me too.
It would be very unfair if he doesn't.
It was unfair.
He helped to get us there. He helped to get us there.
Yeah, he should have started the home game against PSV, to be honest. But anyway, that's not here or there. But I think if we go into that PSV game with the excitement of playing a youth team and the fringe players, it really puts us into good position for that Villa game, because that is a Villa game after, right? Villa game's after that PSV.
No, before.
PSV. Okay.
Yeah, so
we're going to put everything.
We've got
into
Lens
that.
Wednesday, then Wolves Saturday, Luton Tuesday, Villa away on the Saturday, and then PSV on the
right. So
and then Brighton and Liverpool.
Yeah, that's
right.
Brighton, Liverpool.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. He cannot be playing a strong team against me unless we have to play them. But Villa's going to be tough. Villa is going to be very tough.
We shouldn't need to. If we get 2 draws in the last 2 games, we're through on top.
Well,
right?
I mean, a draw really probably sees us through on Wednesday, but we should be winning on Wednesday and put this to bed, because we're in that situation at the minute where it's midweek Saturday. Do you know what I mean? Like Lens, Wolves, Luton's a midweek game, Villa, then PSV, then Brighton at home. And the only reason we don't have a game in between Brighton and Liverpool away is because we went out of the Carling Cup, whatever it's called.
Which Liverpool are in. Yeah. Liverpool are in it. So that's good news.
Yeah. They got West Ham,
Liverpool. Sorry?
I fancy us against Liverpool. I do. I'm not as scared of them this season as I have been.
And it's weird because they're a lot better this season than they were last year.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. There's just something about them. Like their underlying stats aren't great.
I don't think I'm just not as worried that we are built like jelly. Do you know what I mean? Like we're just not as flimsy. We haven't got that soft undercarriage that we've.
Oh, the spine is it's tight, man.
Yeah,
and that's it. And I'm quite confident that we can take whatever's thrown at us there. I mean, it may be a game where you don't go quite as much Zinchenko on the right wing. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you please stay in your left back area for a little bit? Maybe you do that a little bit more. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but this season, especially the more the season's gone on, Zinchenko is sticking to the left-hand side of the pitch a lot more. He's not popping up on the right-hand side of the penalty box anymore. He's still pushing into midfield, but he's very much staying over to that side.
This will be a Tomiyasu game, though, surely, right? Like last season.
If he's needed at right back.
True.
That's fair.
But
I don't think
Ben
Ben White has been great the last few games. And I mean, part of it might be because he was carrying a knock, because I don't think he's been great the last few games. I think we've looked better with Tommy Asu at right back than we did when Ben White was in at right back. And I just think, to me, Zinchenko's undroppable. Like, I don't see any reason you would drop Zinchenko.
To be fair, I mean, I think Tomiyasu has been like fantastic this season. He's been really good.
Yeah, I really like him. I just think he's if
Yep.
you want to look for a utility player or a squad player, that's your man. He's just been so good, and it probably speaks to the fact that we did miss him when he went out injured last season.
Oh, we absolutely did.
Yeah,
Especially every time he's out injured. There's 2 years in a row we've gone to the end of the season and we've needed him and he hasn't been there.
Yeah. I agree with Justin though. I think Liverpool. I just feel that when you play them at Anfield, irrespective of what their form is, they're a pain in the arse, and we've had that before.
We have lost to some shit at Anfield.
Yeah,
remember Neil Mellor?
Yeah, he's the one that scored, didn't he? That Vieira cancelled out that Vieira goal. We played, horrible Milan Barros or whatever his name.
We have played some terrible at Anfield and got
pesky. They've had some horrible Liverpool midfields, but when it comes to playing them at Anfield, even with our invincible team, they were never an easy team to play against. In fact, we probably got one of the worst records away from home in the Premier League era. So, I can never ever. You can never really put that down to form, and that attack is. But I go to all the points. We're a lot harder to break down, a lot harder, and I think Rice in there and I don't think Saliba,
that's the big difference, though, right? In it, that is the big difference. The big difference is Declan Rice.
He is, but did Saliba play the last game? He didn't play, did he? In Anfield, was he injured? Was that when?
Yeah, he was. Or did he play? Because that was when Kivior came on, wasn't it? Yeah, no, he didn't play. He didn't play at Anfield because he got injured against Fulham before we went.
Right. So I think if we have our defense there with Rice there, I think you've got a different game because he did play in the home game against them, and Rob Holding played, didn't he? He did. Yeah, he did indeed. But him. I think that game and Villa are going to be very interesting matches. So, yeah, some great things to look forward to in terms of the Premier League fixtures.
I really want this Villa win. I do.
Yeah,
me too.
I think Emery's getting. I respect him a ton as a manager and everything. This isn't like throwing shade or anything, but I really want this.
Did you watch the Spurs Villa game?
I saw
a little bit of it.
I watched it.
I saw they were all over them, right?
It was fucking mental. It was Tottenham should have been 8-4 up at half time. It was an Unai Emery masterclass. Tottenham had 3 goals disallowed. They had 3 goals disallowed, and they should have had 9 or 10. Now Villa should have had 5 or 6 themselves. But it was unbelievable. I think Spurs had like 28 shots or something, and Villa had 21, something ridiculous like that. It was peak Emery. That doesn't hold up. We know that doesn't hold up. If they play against us the way they played against Spurs, and they won't, I'm sure they won't. But if they did play that way against us the way they played against Spurs, oh my God, I'm here for it all day if they want to play like that.
I think they're they do have some dangerous players. I think that Diaby's excellent. Bailey can be a threat. I know he was a bit of a threat when we played them. Watkins is obviously in a bit of form. But
McGinn's playing well again.
McGinn's playing really well. But their defense is for the taking. I mean, you've got Pau Torres is pretty decent, but Konza, Cash, what's his name's definitely an error or two, Digny or whatever, Digna. So I think they definitely can be exploited. And like you said, we're going to be playing against a team that's not going to have a lot of possession of the ball. We're going to be the ones with that. So I'm definitely beatable.
Yeah, and you're not as worried about that. You remember last year at some points we were having problems with just a long ball over the top. And I think Saliba's really grown up over the last year. Like, I think he's a different player now to what he was a year ago, Saliba. I think he's bigger. And he doesn't get bullied the way you remember how Tony bullied him at the Emirates. I don't think he'd do that now. I just don't think he'd do that now. I think that was then, and this is now. So I'm a lot less worried about that ball over the top.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know how you guys feel, but just recently today, I was taking the dog for a walk, and I got really hung up on the Chelsea and Fulham results. and just thinking about if we could have gotten those wins, being 4 more points clear. And I know this is an easy trap to fall into, every season, but it's like we really should be a little bit more ahead than we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about the Chelsea result is everyone else is fucked up there as well. Liverpool drew there and Man City drew there. So it's kind of a wash. Rice going off at half time against Spurs in a game that in the end we should have been 4-1 up at half time and we're probably lucky to come out of it with a point. So that one I can kind of, push away. The Fulham one is obviously very, very frustrating. But, you can always look at that. Always look at what it could have been. I just think to get to this point, we are going to start December top of the league again. It's not a fluke. We did it last year and we're back here again. So I just think I think getting to this point of the season, I'm happy with where we are at.
And I say this many times, we've beaten the champions. And I think that's a big
huge
difference.
Yeah. We would have won last year if we did it.
Yeah, massive psychological.
If we'd have beaten them at the Emirates in February, we would have won a title.
Yeah. And I think now we're seeing where the difference is between this team and that team. That team maybe just had a little bit more naivety to it.
And we knew that when we went to the Emirates, we were going to get beat last year. The Etihad, we were going to get beat. Yeah. We knew it.
Yeah, especially
this
with
year.
Holding.
This year, I don't see us surrendering like that.
No, and I also feel more confident going to Anfield. I feel more confident against the other teams that we're playing. I just feel there's a solidness that we've not had. Yes, there needs to be more improvement in our attacking line, but people forget we've got a goal difference of 17. City's is 19. So it's not that tragic, is it? It's not that much of a difference. We just maybe are not seeing the free-flowing Arsenal we saw last season, but we're definitely seeing a very difficult Arsenal to play against.
You know what, though? I think that can be seen as a positive too, because, I mean, the one player I think that hasn't got going at all this season is Gabriel Martinelli. He's had a couple of decent games, but I think he's got 2 goals in the last 18 games or something like that. And
even Odegaard. Really?
Odegaard started the season on fire, though, didn't he? Odegaard was really good, and then he got that injury that he was playing with. He got that hip injury. Remember, he scored like 3 in the first 4 games.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah,
he was going well, and then he got that hip injury, and I think that slowed him down some, and then he got the concussion and that. But I think Martinelli is the one that he's just not scoring enough goals. He's just not. Like, Saka is getting a goal or an assist every single game. Martinelli is just not scoring enough goals. And I think it's because that left-hand side of the pitch isn't really working properly at the minute. But when that happens and we start firing, because Martinelli is still going to get 15 goals this season, they're just all coming late. Save them up. I'm fine with that. So I think there's whereas last year, when we looked at Spurs with Conte and everyone's saying, well, wait till they start playing well. And we're all going, but they're at their ceiling. Like, this is as well as they're going to play. They're not getting better. We are not like that because we have seen what these players have got to offer. We've got 15-goal Martin Odegaard, 15-goal Bukayo Saka, 15-goal Gabriel Martinelli, and 11-goal Gabriel Jesus that missed half the season from last season. Do you know what I mean? We know these players are going to fire. It's just a matter of when. So I think that is a positive that we haven't shown anything like our best form, because you know what? Man City don't show their best form at the start of the season. Our good teams never showed their best form at the start of the season. We used to go on runs starting in December or January. That is where we are, and we are doing it from a point of strength this year.
Yeah, and the scary thing about City is that you've got to make sure you're ahead before they go on that 20-game win streak at the end of the season. But I mean, if we can make sure we are.
I think, Justin, that's a really interesting point, but I don't know if that's going to be the case this season. I have my doubts about City because I feel they've been found out now a few times.
Yeah, remember last season at this time, though, we had the same doubt. They've got more points this year than they had last year at this point. So
yeah, but I think the competition is there more as well. I mean, they've looked. I have to say, I thought Liverpool exposed them. They were leading that pretty comfortable, but they let them in. And I think defensively,
they did make a mistake, but I thought City dominated that game. So,
they have
Liverpool were lucky to be in it.
Yeah. They have a single point failure more than we do in Rodri. If Rodri goes down, it's. I mean, they're a completely different team with and without him. More so than I'd say any one player for us.
Yeah, it's him and Haaland, because that team is completely changed to play with Haaland. Like that, the whole system has evolved and changed. The whole style of play to fit Haaland. And I think without Haaland, I know Alvarez is a good player, but he ain't Erling Haaland.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah.
No, that's true.
All right, lads. Well, thank you very much for that tonight. We'll leave it there, and we'll be back at the end of the week, and we'll talk about hopefully sealing top spot in the Champions League group, and looking forward to the weekend. So, lads, have a good week. Justin, take care of yourself, and make sure you get everything packed up. Don't forget one of the dogs or anything like that.
Yeah, I'll do my best. It was nice to have the trio back together, and I'm sure we'll probably do something end of the week, right? For
sure. We'll do something at the end of the week. So,
and Justin, make sure you catch a plane.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? We'll go on this. We'll go on this another time. Justin actually missing his flight to Holland, which was quite hilarious for everyone except Justin and his wife, who didn't kill him. So well done, Mrs. Justin, for not stabbing him in the heart.
Yeah. To be determined.
Yeah, exactly.
To be determined.
There's still time. All right, lads. Well, thank you,
guys.
for that.
All right, cheers.
We'll be back on it later in the week. See you later.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.